What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Leon from Leon Talks TV. And welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about a topic that's affecting many people, specifically men, but isn't often discussed: sexless marriage. We'll delve into what it means, why it happens, and most importantly, what you can do about it. So let's jump right in. Chapter 1. What is a sexless marriage? All right, let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough: sexless marriage. So, what exactly do we mean by sexless marriage? Essentially, it's when couples have sex fewer than 10 times a year, or sometimes not at all. And I mean, that's pretty low, right? Believe it or not, estimates show that around 15% to 25% of marriages fall into this category. This means millions of men are dealing with sexless marriages, which can really affect their happiness and well-being. A study from 2017 found that about 15.6% of married people hadn't had sex in the entire year. That's some crazy studies right there. And some sources suggest that this number could even be as high as 25% to 50%, depending on who you ask. What's interesting is that younger men are increasingly reporting problems with sexual desires. A recent survey found that 25.8% of married millennials have faced issues with their sex life in the past year, which often leads to these sexless marriages. So, to sum it all up, about 15 to 25% of marriages are considered sexless. This issue affects men of all ages, but it seems to be hitting younger men harder lately. While definitions of sexless can vary, the most common one is having sex fewer than 10 times a year. So it's clear that it's a significant issue in many relationships, and it's important to bring it to light. Chapter 2. Why do sexless marriages happen? So, why do some of these marriages become sexless? There are a few reasons. Emotional disconnect. Sometimes couples drift apart emotionally, which can lead to less intimacy. Stress and busy lives. Life can get hectic and stress can take a toll on relationships, making intimacy harder to prioritize. Sexual discontent. So if one or both partners are unhappy with their sex life, it can lead to a complete lack of intimacy. And of course, there are medical reasons, but we're not focusing on the medical aspects as a cause of a sexless marriage. We primarily concentrating on the emotional and intimacy aspects. We understand that medical issues are often beyond a person's control, and there's not much that can be done about that. Chapter 3. Understanding desire in relationships. Alright, let's get real for a moment and talk about something that hits home for a lot of guys. So what's going on here? One big reason could be a loss of desire. Sometimes that initial spark just fades away. I mean, picture this. You're in a relationship and at first everything feels exciting, but over time, that burning desire that woman once had for you can start to dwindle. For many men, this leads to feeling rejected and confused because they want that connection but don't know how to reignite it. Now, if your partner isn't feeling that desire, it can be tough. They might not be motivated to be intimate with you, and that can hurt. It's not just about the physical side of things, it's about emotional connection too. If they are feeling distant, it's possible that that's not just checked out. Maybe they're secretly talking to someone else. You just never know. And who makes them feel that spark again? And let's be honest, it can be really frustrating. You might feel like you're giving your all, but if your partner is emotionally tapped out, it can leave you feeling pretty lonely. The lack of intimacy can lead to a lot of unanswered questions and even self-doubt. Things like, am I not good enough? Or what did I do wrong? These thoughts can really weigh on the guy. It's important to know that a lack of intimacy can lead to feelings of discontent, and it's a common reason people seek relationships outside their marriage. Chapter 4. The impact of a sexless marriage. Now let's talk about the impact of being in a sexless marriage. Many men report feeling decreased self-esteem, and increased feelings of loneliness or frustration. They might turn to things like adult entertainment, i.e. porn, or even become regulars at the local strip club to cope with their feelings, which can further complicate their relationship. But it's not just about physical aspects. It can also lead to emotional pain over time. This can create a cycle where both partners feel disconnected and unhappy. Chapter 5, the truth about sexless marriage. So, something that a lot of people have strong feelings about. Opinions on this can really vary, but there are some common themes that keep popping up in conversations and surveys. First of all, many folks believe that intimacy is super important in a marriage. In fact, about 61% of people think that being intimate is a key part of a healthy relationship. And I agree. But here's the catch. A lot of people feel unhappy in sexless marriages. More than half of women and nearly 2/3 of men wish they were having more sex, especially those who are married or living together. And get this, research shows that men in sexless marriages are less likely to report being very happy compared to those who are sexually active. The difference isn't huge, but is definitely there. Now, let's talk about the stigma. Many men feel embarrassed or ashamed to discuss being in a sexless marriage, which makes it hard to open up about their problem. Even though it's pretty common, some couples even start thinking about divorce when they're not getting that intimacy they crave. In online discussions, you can see a lot of frustration and emotional pain. For example, some men in faith communities have shared that they feel trapped or emotionally neglected, and some even seek intimacy outside their marriages as a result. One Reddit user put it bluntly: if she's not having sex with you, she's your roommate, and an expensive one at that. They are saying that if intimacy is gone, it's hard to see the relationship as anything more than a partnership without the emotional connection. And a female user chimed in saying that once a woman loses desire for a man, it rarely comes back, which 100% says a lot, it coming from a woman. So while some couples may find a way to accept or adapt to a sexless marriage, most people really want more intimacy. The absence of that connection is serious challenge in relationships and something worth talking about. Chapter 6, the impact of sexual discontent in marriage. So let's talk about a tough but important topic: sexual discontent in marriage and how it can lead to serious problems, including infidelity. When intimacy is lacking, many men might start looking for satisfaction outside their marriage. Studies show that sexual discontent is a strong predictor of infidelity. When a partner feels unfulfilled sexually, it significantly increases the chances that they might cheat. This lack of intimacy can push one or both partners to seek physical connection elsewhere. It's not just men who feel this way. Both men and women report that a lack of sex is primary reason for cheating. Now, it's important to note that not every man in a sexless marriage will cheat, but the data clearly shows that sexual discontent is a major driver for infidelity in these situations. And personally, I don't blame them. Chapter 7, is a sexless marriage grounds for divorce? Now let's touch on how a sexless marriage can impact divorce proceedings. The rules around this can vary depending on where you live. In the UK and other countries with no fault divorce laws, you don't have to provide specific reasons like a lack of sex. You can simply say that the marriage has broken down to other reasons. While a lack of intimacy can be part of your personal reasons, you don't need to prove it in court. In some US states, especially those that allow fault-based divorces, a sexless marriage might be considered grounds for divorce under terms like constructive abandonment or neglect. If one partner refuses sex for a long time without a valid reason, it could even be seen as cruelty, but you would need to prove that this refusal was ongoing and unjustified. In no-fault divorce states like California, you simply need to cite incompatible differences. to get a divorce without having to prove anything specific like a lack of intimacy. While a sexless marriage might not be a formal legal ground for divorce, it is a common reason couples give for the breakdown of their relationship. Many people are looking for more intimacy in their lives, and when that's missing, it can lead to a serious issue. So, if you find yourself in this situation, it's essential to address the underlying problems to avoid further complications down the road. Chapter 8. What can you do about it? So, what can you do if you find yourself in a sexless marriage? Here are some key solutions. So let's be real for a minute. Guys, when it comes to intimacy in a relationship, it's all about open communication. You've got to talk to your partner / woman, girlfriend, because remember this, although we're talking about sexless marriage, but this can be related to marriages and just general relationships or casual relationships, because it can happen in both. So you got to talk to your partner about how you both feel. No judgment, just honesty. Rebuilding that emotional intimacy is key. So spend that quality time that you need together, connect through conversations, and show affection in ways that don't always lead to the bedroom. If things are rocky, don't hesitate to consider couples therapy if that's what you're into. Different strokes for different folks. But having a professional guide may guide you through those tough talks can be a game changer. But let's be honest here, if you've had that conversation and it's going nowhere and you're stuck feeling like you have to beg for affection, that's a big red flag. You might find yourself in a situation where you've got ties that make leaving tough, like a mortgage, or you've got 3 or 4 kids. But if you're in a position where you constantly asking for intimacy and she's not reciprocating that, it's time to seriously think about calling it quits. I mean, personally, you shouldn't have to beg for affection. If she's not initiating anything or showing that she's interested, or she doesn't look at you and wants to rip your clothes off, maybe it's time to step back and evaluate what you really want. Sometimes that means focusing on yourself and making sure you're in a good place physically. Because physically, she could be turned off by you as well. So sometimes you might have to reflect on yourself. So all these things is things to consider. Conclusion. In summary, sexless marriages are more common than you might think, and they can have a significant impact on even both partners. But with open communication and a willingness to work together, couples can often find their way back to a more intimate connection. However, also remember that long-term sexual rejection can have significant and lasting emotional effects on men, so never be afraid to make those tough decisions. Anyways, with that being said, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more great content. Until next time, take care and keep pushing forward. Salute.